So let's start. I'm Neil Foster. Delighted, absolutely delighted to be hosting you today. So I'm the English accent of the double act. Scott and I will be, well, we're the host today. Scott, I'll hand over to in a sec. I'm Neil Foster. I'm the co-chair with Scott of our technology sector practice. Welcome to Brown Rudnick. This is a law firm. I know that it looks like, a Mayfair townhouse, which it is. We're the only law firm with the good sense to be in Mayfair, not in the city. We don't advise banks, so why would we be in the city? We advise funds and the entrepreneurs that they invest in, so we're in Mayfair, obviously. These offices, I'll just mention, we were just chatting about how unusual these offices are. The three things about this room that you're in and this place that you're in. The first is this is Winston Churchill's old family home. The second is, if you saw the paintings and murals and the architecture of the staircase, there's a gent very famous in those circles called Thornhill, who did a lot of the refurbishment of St. Paul's Cathedral. And he was the architect and painter for the murals on the stairs up as well. And so if you have friends in art and architecture, they'll know all about Thornhill. And sometimes people are less interested in coming into these offices to see us and more interested in seeing those murals because they're very well known.
Do you have a spare room upstairs I can sleep in?
And we don't. And the third is this room wasn't kitted out as an auditorium for a law firm offices in London. Racket sports players amongst you might recognize the dimensions of this. Somebody thought that it was a good idea to have a squash court in the middle of Mayfair. Now that's somebody with a decent depth of pocket that can pay the rent on a squash court. But this was a squash court. I'm guessing that Winston Churchill wasn't a squash player, but somebody laid this out as a squash court. So those are the three things about this building you're in. Scott will tell you a little bit more about the firm, but my practice, Scott's practice, Tim and others here, our practice is 50% advising the funds and 50% advising the entrepreneurs, as I said. That's all we do. We're a boutique, we're specialist. Unlike all the other law firms, my first law firm has 22,000 lawyers. Believe me, it's better for clients and it's certainly better for me and my team to be at a boutique that specializes in what we're talking about today. So I'll hand you over to Scott. Stick around afterwards. Some of our after event parties go to 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. So let's see how long it lasts tonight. We don't have any beds upstairs, but so we will escort you off the premises. Scott, over to you.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Neil. And thanks to everyone for being here. Of course, thanks to OneSixOne, our sponsors, and thanks to Harry Stebbings for coming out as well. As Neil said, my name is Scott Smedgersman. I co-chair the technology and venture capital group here at the firm. As a firm, we spend half our time, as Neil noted, representing funds. Funds as small as $5 million baby funds, all the way up through multi-billion-dollar mega funds and everything in between. We represent investors that write $25,000 checks and investors write 100 million plus. So a really nice broad range of VCs we get to work with. We help those VCs form their funds and raise money. So of course, VCs are getting their money from someplace else, right? They're getting it from a TPG, they're getting it from Apple, they're getting it from Apollo and from BlackRock. These are investors who we've closed LP deals with. And then we represent those funds on the outbound when they invest into technology companies like many of the ones that you folks, or at least some of you folks in the room will start. That's about half of what we do. The other half is entrepreneurship with the entrepreneur side of that equation, the founders and the operators from day zero all the way up through liquidity. We work with founders in a variety of key academic ecosystems at the earliest possible stages of venture formation. Just last week on Friday, I spent my day at Wharton, the business school at University of Pennsylvania, just meeting with founder teams. I've been a lecturer at Columbia Business School for 15 years, work with MIT, we work with Harvard, we work with Yale, variety of the best-in-class ecosystems producing the best-in-class founders, but at the absolute earliest stages. Right? Pre-formation, often with entrepreneurs who've never been entrepreneurs before. And we provide that depth of experience and market knowledge to help them get the basics right and focus on the hard part. right? Raising money and building successful companies. That's where the focus should be, not necessarily on the legal aspects that we can help them get right. And that's where we overlapped with OneSixOne and got the pleasure to connect with. Building ecosystems is really important to us at the firm and is super important to OneSixOne. So I want to pass off to Justice, share a little bit about OneSixOne, where they've come from, where they're going, and the communities we're all trying to build together.
Thank you so much, Scott. How you guys doing? I'm Justice Mendez, co-founder and managing partner of OneSixOne Ventures. So why are we all here? We believe that founders and that are building companies change the status quo of how we live, the whole entire world. So a little bit more about us, me and Pablo, who you'll meet in a little bit. We met at the University of Florida in 2016, and we noticed there was no capital, there was no mentorship, and nobody was helping people build companies. So what we needed ourselves while we were building companies is what we built for us. So we started off hosting events in 2016. Then the first year and a half, we built the biggest tech community in the Southeast, one of the biggest tech communities. And from there, we realized that founders needed more than introductions. They needed more than hanging out and grabbing drinks. They needed true mentorship. So we built an educational platform, started doing everything from workshops to boot camps to executive roundtables. And this was a passion for us on the side while we built our companies. But then in 2020, something happened to everybody, the pandemic. The whole world had to shut down, including us hosting events. So the Japanese use a word called kiki, both means crisis and opportunity. And what we found is while there was a crisis, there within was an opportunity. So all of the incubators, all of the accelerators had to close their doors. So you know what we said? Why don't we launch a free accelerator for founders based off what YC does, a 10-week program, bringing in people like the VP growth at Spotify, the CEO of Priceline, the chief ethics officer of Airbnb, and to help really mentor these companies and conclude with the demo day. So within about 18 months, we helped 40 pre-seed companies raise over $13 million. They generated $15 million in revenue, and one of them got acquired. And I mentioned I was doing this for free. So I'm like, where's my cut? No, but we realized, you know what, if we really want to be able to help these founders, we need to be able to write checks. And we need to be able to really fuel them while we're helping support them. So we said to ourselves, hey, can we get some type of capital? Everybody said no. We said, how about we build our own table? So we launched our fund in 2022. So far, we backed 22 companies. And back to that original kind of core thesis of where we started, that's our bread and butter, and that's our unfair advantage. We host events across 13 different cities, not including London, about 50 events a year, and it's connecting great people. Everything from corporate executives to other investors to amazing founders and helping supercharge their business. So tonight is not about us. Tonight is about all of you guys in the room. How can we help support you? How can we put you in front of people? How can we introduce you to everybody? And one thing that I have before, because I know you guys don't want to hear me yap, you guys want to hear Harry, but before we get to that, I do want to ask all of you guys one thing. Make an introduction, make a connection, write a check, meet people, leave here with new connections and friendships other than what you came here with. So give yourselves a round of applause for making it down on Monday night. Cool. And then I'll get to what you guys are really here for. So I want to be able to introduce Harry Stebbings, the founder of 20VC, and Pablo Casilimas, my co-founder of OneSixOne Ventures. Give them a round of applause.
Testing. Can you guys hear me in the back? Good? Awesome. Cool. Thank you everybody for coming out here. It's my first time in London. I flew out here 7 a.m, landed. First time in the UK actually. And thank you so much, Harry, for making it such a warm welcome. My first time coming out here.
Not at all. It's great to have another American in London.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sorry, it's so good to have you here, man.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're going to kick it off right away because we have limited time with this man. So you're 28. You're managing $650 million. You have one of the largest podcasts in the venture capital world. And you've ran 2 marathons in the past week. How do you budget your time? How do you make sure you get enough time for training and sleep and eating and all these things?
Well, I think really I love running pretty much more than anything other than venture. And so I prioritize that. I think the worst excuse ever for anything is like, oh, I don't have time. You just chose not to prioritize it. And probably, we said before you asked me a question, which was, what does no one ask that they probably should ask? And I'd like to ask the question of what habit or thing about you are you kind of ashamed of that actually makes you quite good, hopefully, at a number of things? And mine is I'm an addict. I get addicted to things very easily, which is why I don't drink, I don't ever do drugs, and I run because it's like a good thing to be addicted to. But it means that you actually focus in a way that I think most other people don't. And so how do I find the time? I just sleep a little bit less, have coffee a lot more, and run faster.
And find some positive addictions.
Exactly.
I love it. So you are one of the OGs of venture podcasting. You started your
I'm
podcast.
28.
I know, and you're ahead of the curve. So what are
Someone
your thoughts?
described me as Wayne Rooney the other day, which I thought was deeply offensive because it's basically like, you know, you're like not that old, but you've been in it for such a long time that people just think you're old.
Right,
Yeah.
because it's such a new thing. You know, podcasting hasn't really been big for that long, and so you kind of helped create this movement. What are your thoughts now on all the VCs that are launching a podcast now that it's become like a very popular thing?
I think there's a very legitimate question of like, has the value of content gone to absolute zero? I spend $1 million plus a year on short form content, like creating it. We obviously spend millions a year creating content. We make millions through our content. Why am I just like destroying my own business? The commoditization of content has never been more real. The sad thing is we've all just become these dopamine chasing monkeys. Catch me at the end of the day, I'm like just generally irritable. I'm a bit like a young Hugh Grant, if anyone knows that. I'm just generally quite an irritable person. And like, so we are these like dopamine chasing monkeys, and we need really two things today. We need like salacious gossip, which is like Sam Altman, you know, beat Elon Musk with, you know, rolling pin. Weird brain. And that's one. Or two, it's like AI, deep AI news. And if you're not in one of two buckets, you're pretty much fucked. And so you have to change so much of what you do. You know, most of our stuff today is actually news related. If you're not news, there's no urgency. Content today is a bit like enterprise sales. Unless there's urgency, you're not going to get a conversion. And so it has to be time relevant, which makes our business a freaking nightmare because we do 3 shows a week. And so if you are doing time relevance, we used to like record and then release 6 weeks later. Right? A lot of time, great. Now it's like record Monday, release Thursday. Shit, that's a fast turnaround. We do 65 clips per show. They're all manually done. People who think AI clippings is ready for prime time, it's not. It is intense. And so I would say content's changing faster than ever and becoming way harder than ever.
Yeah, it's becoming so saturated. And, you know, a lot of people think that you started as like a podcaster and then happened to land as an investor. But looking into your background, it turns out that that was the dream from day
That you're
one.
completely uneducated.
Yeah. And this was your path that you saw. So you had this really interesting quote that was, brand is a hat to track, something like that.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate on this and what you meant by that?
Yeah, I mean, essentially there's like 4 core pillars to successful venture investing. I could be a McKinsey consultant with this, but there's sourcing, there's selecting, there's securing, which is winning, and then there's servicing, which is helping. And I always believed great companies are always found on the back of an insight development. It's a way that you see the world that other people don't necessarily agree with. And 10 years ago, I believed that venture would be more transparent than ever before, and it would become increasingly commoditized. And so you had to differentiate with some form of tangible product, which I think is why we've been able to raise, you know, the money we have done. And so when I started, the media asset and the podcast was always a way to do those 4 things better than anyone else. It was also, to your point on brand as a hack to track, how does a kid in a bedroom in London raise, our first fund was like tiny $8 million, but like then $140 million and then $400 million. Still, we have some DPI, but it's pretty small because of the time. But how do you do that? It's brand. And I think what I would add is tangibility. In a world of intangibles, which all LPs have today, everyone sells 2 things in venture. They say, oh, I've got a great network. I went to Stanford and I know all these people. I came out of OpenAI, I know all these people. Or their knowledge, okay? Which is, I'm super smart at fintech or AI or whatever. Every LP has knowledge and network. They're bored shitless of this. And everyone has the same deck and the same, I've never done a deck. I can't do a deck. I'm useless at decks. You know, you're like, what? Terrible. But LPs always look for a reason to say no, by the way. So when you send the deck like we had of time, they're just like picking holes in it and then they have a reason to say no. And so how did I do it? You have to build brand and tangibility to your product. I was saying to you earlier, it was a good share, but like, you know, when you think about events as a core strategy to your fund, you need to think about how you build that into a tangible product that is repeatable and then map it back to the 4 core pillars that we just outlined and give examples to LPs of how it has helped you do those 4 things better, and literally include pictures, screenshots. LPs, everyone forgets this. Everyone has a boss, and everyone has to sell you to someone else. Whether you're in a venture fund, you're a founder selling to a partner, they've got to sell you to the rest of their partnership. And the more you can arm them with material, the better you will be in terms of getting the check from them.
Justice, I hope you're taking notes wherever you are. How did you have the foresight and the vision as an 18-year-old to like realize, why didn't anybody else do what you did?
Well, I had no friends, and so it gave me more time. So when I was 13, I saw The Social Network, and I saw Peter Thiel invest in Facebook with Clarion Capital, and I fell in love with venture. And so I basically became the biggest nerd on venture and read everything I could for 5 years. And so like, it was not like a lightning bulb moment one day when I was 18. It was more like 5 years of thinking about how venture would change. And actually, there was a very small number of great people who did content, but I saw more and more by falling into the industry. There were so many people who were great. And so I was like, well, shit, if I can shine a light on all these people that don't do anything or say anything in this business, I can actually build a real business here.
Absolutely.
And then, by the way, like, I hate these talks when people like sound like it all worked. Like, it did not all work. I remember, I can see cameras that's recorded, but fuck it. I'm like the worst at any PR team. But like, I tried to get a job at Excel in London when I was 18. And this is like one of those amazing moments. Like, there's a great movie called Match Point, which if no one's seen it, like, go watch Match Point. There's these moments in life when the ball hits the net, the top of the net, and it can fall back on your side or go onto the other person's side. I think this kind of Excel rejection was kind of a moment like that for me, because I got through to the final stages. This was my dream, Excel, like, God in London, please give me a job as an 18-year-old. And they got 4 out of 5 yeses, and they needed 5. Something like that, maybe 3 out of 5, whatever it was. But it's very close, but no. And that was all that I wanted. And I'm so grateful, because I would have been an analyst. I would have had to stop the podcast. By the way, I'm not very good at counting, so being an analyst isn't great. But I would have been a very, very low analyst, and I would have had to stop everything. And so
it was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Incredible. Could you talk a little bit about Project Europe and what motivated you to start that?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So I mean, essentially, we came thinking like, God, this is gonna be a positive talk, and it's like not. Basically, we're fucked. That you've got China, who for years have been thinking, how on earth are we going to compete against the US in an AI race? And then we have the US obviously excelling in most kind of frontier AGI labs, and then China have DeepSeek. And DeepSeek is this unbelievable crescendo moment for the CCP and for Xi Jinping, where he goes, fuck yes, I can hang my hat on this. We're going to dedicate billions and billions of dollars. The supply of talent is going to go through the roof. We are going to win the AI arms race. And you've got the US in turn doing a $500 billion Stargate project. You've got OpenAI moving faster than ever. I have friends that every single day is 15, 16, 17-hour days. You go to the Valley, it's like 15 hours a day, 7 days a week. The unbelievable. And here we are in London. And like, it's a bank holiday Monday and it's a long weekend, and I would come to that thing, but I'm going for a double espresso, so no. And so we are at this terrible, terrible time where I think we actually are going to become completely irrelevant unless we do something very, very fast. Like, very fast. And it's entirely selfish. I love living in London and I hate America, sorry. San Francisco is the only city in the world where a dog can feasibly step on human shit. Really in so much trouble after this one. And so, it's not a great place. And so I wanted to make Europe amazing, and I wanted to inspire a generation of entrepreneurs to build massive companies in Europe. And so how do we do that? We tell them that there is a life outside of Goldman Sachs and McKinsey, and that you can have an idea for a rocket or a next generation energy company. And just because you're 18, it should not stop you doing it. You might fail, fantastic. We should encourage that too, but you should take that step. And so we fund, unbelievably ambitious 18-year-olds, 18 to 25-year-olds. Everyone's like, oh, why is it an age range? We'll get to that later. But like, 18 to 25-year-olds to build mega projects and be super ambitious, and we fund them as early as humanly possible.
Yeah. And is that the main cultural difference you see between like the startup ecosystem in the US versus Europe? Like there's like a lack of ambition, or like there's just a difference in the level of ambition or hustle culture, or
No, it's a mindset on entry, which is like in Europe, your parents are like, oh, I wouldn't do that. In America, they're like, oh, I've seen 10 of my friends, or I know 10 people, or I've read about these people in newspapers who've made a fortune by being early Facebook employees, or by founding a company that sold to Facebook, or they're encouraged earlier to do startups. In Europe, you go to Austria, you go to Sweden, you go to any of these great countries, they are not encouraged when they're 15, 16, 17 to start a business. They're encouraged to go and work for Volkswagen or Boeing, or which are fine companies. But you are not encouraged to take that first step, which is why we like honestly wanted to like shake amazing teenagers and say like build fucking great businesses.
and why is it that let's go into the age thing. So why is it that you have a bias towards younger founders?
Yeah, this really annoys me. Everyone's like, oh, the age, like you should include more people. And you're like, yeah, there are amazing like different projects that will fund older people, respectfully. But like any great company, you need to have an ICP, an ideal customer profile. It changes everything about the way that you operate, market, message your product. Our whole product is designed for 18 to 25-year-olds. It would be a very different product if it was 40 to 55-year-olds. And so that is our ICP. Bluntly, if you don't like it, jog on. I'm not fussed. I want the best 18 to 25-year-olds. And what people forget is that the best companies are actually more than products. They're more than brands. They're movements. They're movements of people. And you're always going to get people who are for or against. And bluntly, that's fine. That's when you know you've created a successful movement.
Absolutely. Tell me about something that you believe that you think most VCs would disagree with you on.
Oh. I mean, there's many things. I think one is now this is just a game of access. I think we like to pretend that there's more picking in it because it justifies our fees, which is true. But truth be told, given the ability to scale early revenues and traction so much more cheaply, it is much more identifiable who early winners will be in this next wave of application AI companies. With that in mind, the pick is less challenging. What's more challenging is the win. And how do you convince that great entrepreneur to take your term sheet over the 10 others? That is what is fundamentally so challenging.
Yeah. And I heard in an interview you were mentioning how there's actually a lot more overlap between the podcast and venture capital than most people tend to think. And part of it has to do with when you're interviewing somebody, that your goal is to disarm them in a way that they will open up to you and like be completely authentic with you.
Yeah.
Which is actually really kind of like translates well to venture, because you need the founder to be very authentic and very transparent about how the company's doing.
I think everyone should, like, if you encourage your children to do one thing, just tell them that they should learn to interview people, because it is the most multivariate skill acquisition activity that you could do. You have 3 to 5 minutes at the beginning of every interview where you have to make someone feel safe, feel comfortable to share some pretty hard things often to share. One, so you have to really teach that. 2, you have to learn to really listen and to be very responsive in asking questions. Bad interviewers have a schedule and they stick to it. Good interviewers are very plastic and they're able to move with the conversation, but then bring it back seamlessly when that conversation thread dries out. There are so many important elements that people don't pick up on from doing interviews that I think are so transferable to so many other aspects of life. Another thing is like media and venture. Again, there are like 12 term sheets for every deal that we want to do. It's a complete shit show. There's way too much money for way too few deals. VCs also don't really admit that. It's ridiculous how much that is the case. So how do you win? Like, little things make big differences. With every term sheet that we send a video. And we send a video where we basically do a promo for the company. And we'll highlight their founders, their traction, some logo customers they might have, and then like visualize the image that they have in a 60-second TikTok-like video that our media team puts together. And we send it with a term sheet. and it's like, oh, cute video.
You should start including projections on how much reach it's going to get on social media too.
Sure, we absolutely can do that. But the point is you want to be a purple cow. And Seth Godin, exactly, which is like you drive past a cow, you've all seen cows before, you're probably not going to look twice. You've never seen a purple cow before. You look twice, you get 12 term sheets. And that one came with that video where they actually interviewed 2 of our customers, put it in a beautiful video, and gave us an amazing signal that they really care. I would say it makes more than 20% difference on deals where you write a $10 million check. $1,000 cost probably for a $10 million check. The amount of angels that we get when they're then deciding that are already in the company and they go, saw the video, super smart. Like that really helped you. Because you know what, going back to tangibility of product, like we said about like the events and the podcast, we've sent them a video that they can send to everyone else. It's much more than being smart in a meeting where it's like, oh, I met, you know, Harry and he said smart things, cool, whatever. They can send that to their whole board right after the term sheet. Really helpful.
That's incredible. So you have some really big ambitions for 20 VC, and I've heard you mention that what you're building is the next Andreessen. And so what I'm curious about is like, what does that big picture look like for you? And then also, what are some of the biggest hurdles that you see to get there?
Yeah, I think like success is the kind of important thing, which is like, how do you define success? And for me, it's like, I want to be the best performing fund in Europe. Like, that is very clear. I don't want to have the biggest AUM. I think you can very easily fall into a life that you don't want, which many people do. Most people do, I think, actually. I don't actually want to be Andreessen. Like you have, you know, bluntly, HR, legal, compliance, you know, principals and associates who all went to business school and want career projection and culture. And you've seen I'm generally irritable. That's not going to go down well. And so, like, that's not what I want at all. I want a small team of incredibly ambitious, talented people. We only have partners. Like, again, going to the point of like what we believe. We're like unwavering. We're not a school. If you can't write checks when you come in, this is not the place for you. There's many other great places, but this isn't the place. And so for me, it's small teams with funds that are large enough to take meaningful like ownership positions. But fundamentally, we are the fund that is the #1 fund for every endowment fund. That's what I want.
Incredible. And then as you guys scale, I mean, you're already, you know, $400 million fund. It's like, it's not as big as some of these institutional funds, but it's getting big. So how do you guys see keeping performance top of mind as you continue to scale? What is like your strategy, or how do you plan to?
Yeah, I think the future of venture is Chanel or it's Walmart. I'm just going to leave it there.
It's a great answer.
Yeah, the cliffhanger. So it's Chanel or it's Walmart. Walmart is like these massive juggernauts of cash. This is Lightspeed, this is General Catalyst. By the way, venture investors, we love to shit on each other and just be like, ha, look at them raising so much money. It's because we're insecure people, generally speaking. And in Europe, you're insecure with no DPI, so you're insecure and poor. Sucks. That's why I have no friends in European venture. And so, like, actually, the GC and the Lightspeed strategy is really smart, which is, yes, our returns will compress. Yes, we have a different LP base, but as we move into a world where OpenAI is raising $30, $40 billion, Anthropic will do the same, we will see many others do the same, you're going to see this shift in asset allocation from Fidelity to GC, to Lightspeed, to Sequoia. Now, that's sadly bad for all of us and our parents and grandparents, because we used to pay 70 bips to them, and now we're going to pay 2% to Hemont at GC. Well done, Hemont. But that's the transition that we're seeing, which is Walmart on that big cash end, or your Chanel. What is Chanel? Chanel is a very boutique experience. It has a very explicit customer base. It's not for everyone. It's got a price point that is not for everyone, but it has fundamentally fantastic products with great brands, and it's a craft. You could put Hermes in the same category. Hermes might even be a better one. But it's a very tailored product. And that is, I think, where we want to play, which is, it changes in terms of size. You mentioned 400, like it's large, how do you retain performance? I think right now, you can probably go to 700 and still retain performance. I think when you hit that 700, you're hitting like the Meritech size, where it's really tough to be able to consistently do a 3 to 4x fund when you go past that scale.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. We're going to have time for a couple of questions here from the audience shortly. But before we get to that, I'll ask one or two more. So, you've obviously had a tremendous amount of success at a very early age. Who are one or two people that have really served as a great source of inspiration or mentorship for you throughout your journey?
It's a very good question. I'm very fortunate. I've had many. Like honestly, I've been so lucky. I would. It's a good one to ask because like, I can name drop quite well. Mickey Malka, who's probably one of the best fintech investors.
Oh, I met him in SF actually.
Yeah,
At a
he's
Somos VC event. There's somebody here from Somos VC actually.
wonderful guy. And I'm not going to replicate his accent because it'd probably sound like a Bond villain, and he's wonderful, so I don't want to do that. But he told me, you're never won or lost. You're only ever ahead or behind. Always remember that. And I just always think to that when we think that we've fucking crushed or we think that we're lost, you're only ever ahead or behind. This is an infinite game. This is so multi-decade. And I think, I'm actually deeply insecure, if you hadn't guessed it. And I'm very conscious of the mistakes that young people have made in the past. And I try and avoid them. And I think thinking in short-term wins, short-termism, is one of the biggest mistakes that you can do or young people make. And so I think that was very helpful. Shakil Khan is the right-hand man to Daniel Ek at Spotify. Probably the most unbelievable story in tech that no one ever talks about. Literally went from being homeless to being the right-hand man to probably the biggest tech media company in the world. He taught me that fundamentally what got you here will not get you there. For a long time, I sold my age. Oh, no, from a kid in London, I was 18, and now look. And it's like, that only works for a certain time. If you want to be considered in a different league, you have to shed the past. And what's got you there will not get you to your next chapter. Really, really important one. Another one is another amazing man, Mark Evans, who is probably one of the most impressive, brilliant minds in European venture, who no one knows. He doesn't even have a LinkedIn. Phenomenal. I was an intern to him 10 years ago at Balderton. And he taught me that you're never wrong to do the right thing. And whenever you have a really hard decision, always ask, would I be happy for this to be printed in the New York Times? And if there's a pause, just don't do it. It's not worth it. Can you sell in a secondary that the founder wouldn't love and it would look a bit bad to the rest of the cap table? Just don't fucking do it. If you wouldn't be happy for that to be printed in New York, just don't do it. I think to that one a lot.
Okay.
I think those would be the ones I go to.
Yeah, if there's ever hesitation, just don't move forward. Last question, and maybe we'll try some quick rapid fire before we get into Q&A. So, sorry, just blanked. Last question is...
It's terrible when you blank. I blanked in an interview today.
Oh, yeah.
I was with like this unbelievably smart AGI founder, and I'm like, it's just fucking hard.
So you have interviewed some of the most brilliant minds in the world. Has there ever been like something that somebody said that you immediately were like, I need to apply this right away, and like that just changed the trajectory of what you have been building, or something that's been like meaningfully disruptive for your work?
I mean, a lot, but I think one of the most important was like a Mike Maples saying your fund size is your strategy. And like really being cognizant of, I think people disconnect fund size and strategy. And it says everything that you need to know about the manager and what they're raising and how they're thinking of deploying it. And when he said that just when I was raising Fund 1, I think that was really meaningful. I remember also, being told nothing is ever as good or as bad as it seems. Be kind. And it's just like, I think we so often are unfairly cruel to people and we forget that they're probably going through a ton of shit, and actually we should just be a little bit more compassionate and kind. I think that changed a lot when I heard that.
That's incredible. Yeah, we're all human. All right, cool. We'll do some quick rapid fire here, and then we're gonna take a few audience questions. So number one, what is more important for an early startup to succeed, founder determination or founder market fit?
Founder determination without fail. Like, you can have founders in terrible markets still have an outcome that is decent just through sheer willpower, 100%.
Got it. What's more important for you personally to perform at your best, sleep or exercise?
Exercise, easy.
Okay. All right, 2 marathons in a week. I mean, makes sense.
I hate traveling because like it completely fucks up exercise and sleep and diet. So I literally don't travel.
All right. So we
Or
won't see
leave.
you in Miami anytime soon, probably.
No, sorry. Literally never. Or see me outside of Mayfair or Marylebone. Rarely.
All right. Okay. Are there any podcasts that you listen to regularly? If so, which ones?
So this is where it goes back to the, like, dopamine chasing monkeys. Mine has really shifted to news related. I honestly think most tech podcasts are pretty shit. It really frustrates me with how poorly edited they are. It's like, editors of books, and then they like read for their free time and they like judge them insanely. That's me. Never listen to a podcast with me or just hear like this critique of the editing. It's so frustrating. Like, oh, that's a good question, Harry. It's like, get rid of that. It's like, it's really important though that your attention is the most precious currency that I have, and I have to respect it intensely. Like, we don't release 30% of the shows that we do. 30%. Why? This is my product. Would you put out a shit product that you're selling? No, you don't do that. Protect it intensely. And so I don't listen to tech podcasts because I think generally the people on them aren't very smart. I think they pontificate about things that they do not know about. I was listening to two brilliant venture investors the other day talk about the CCP's policy, and I was thinking, you are morons. I mean, like, seriously, we're listening to VCs talk about Chinese policy. They've never been to fucking China. What the fuck? And so I love The Rest is Politics. I love Political Currency.
Okay.
And I love How I Built This.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I run listening to How I Built This. It's kind of narrative. It's easy to listen to.
Yeah, it's like a story.
Yeah.
Very nice. Okay. Last 2 or 3 here. What's the most influential book you've ever read?
Christ. It's been a while since I read.
It could be an audiobook.
No, I mean, one of my favorites, and this is Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning.
Oh, yeah?
It's very short. Anyone who likes a short book, wonderful. I also love Madame Bovary. Weird one, but I read it every year. Kind of tragic female heroine, but amazing if you haven't read it. I'd say those are the two biggest. Or like Bad Blood if you just want a fucking great story. Yeah.
For sure. Founding team or market? I think I know your answer for that one.
Founding team all the way. When we do seed deals, it's like 3 things that matter. There's founding team. Are they unbelievable? Are they directionally correct? I love these venture investors who are like, I don't know how the market's going to play out, and I don't think their product positioning is going, the pricing is on. Who gives a shit? Like, it's a pre-seed or a seed deal. It's not going to be the same. Are the founders world-class? Are they directionally correct in the right field of interest? And then is there a deal that's palatable to be done? And that doesn't mean that you're super price sensitive London, like, oh, I'll pay 12 but not 14. But like 10 on 100 is not a seed that I'm going to do. That's Lightspeed's territory, or General Catalyst territory. No, I didn't mean that bad. It's like different funds territory. And those are the 3 things. If you have those 3, go. It's pretty simple.
Which founder would you back 9 times out of 10? The missionary or the mercenary?
Oh, I mean, missionary, but I mean, arguably the best founder of the last decade has been the mercenary, which is Nick at Revolut. I mean, Nick at Revolut is the greatest founder of the last 20 years in my mind. I mean, unbelievably brilliant strategic leader who has weathered every storm, and I think Revolut will be a $500 billion company.
Wow. Did you guys back him?
No, fucking pain. Wish I had. It's a bit embarrassing to go in at 50 billion as well. I got offered the round at 50 billion. Early stage, it's a bit hard to fudge that one.
LPs might not be happy about that one. All right, we'll take some audience Q&A right over here. You first.
Hello, Harry. My name is Nick as well. I'm a Russian as well. Fuse Energy. Question about...
No way, you're Alan Chang, aren't you?
I am.
Yeah.
Charles Orr is more.
Yeah, I love Alan. Yeah.
Yeah. Question about the Project Europe. I mean, you're kind of like the age segment is between 18 to 25-year-old. So the majority of the founders in that age group would be either fresh out of uni with great ideas and great vision, or maybe a couple of years in the industry with somewhat expert domain. How do you trust them with your sort of like with your investments to do the market execution? And why would people, let's say, guys with like big visions but no market interaction in terms of like the good guys, bad guys, I don't know, regulations and all the pitfalls that sort of fall outside of this kind of the bias of trying to like I have a good product and I think my customer will do it. The execution part in that age group, why do you trust them
Naivety is a wonderful thing. You would have told an 18-year-old who knew nothing about venture capital really that there was no way that they would go on to raise probably $850 million across vehicles through a podcast when podcasting was not a thing. Times change, people change. The slope of someone's growth is one of the most important things. Trusting someone with the investment, it's about raw talent. It's about raw ambition and determination. It's not about the age so much. And we're also entering a very new world where the decay rate on operating experience has never been greater in technology, bluntly. You've got a couple of reasons around this, but the main one is in the world of AI, what has been is so different from what has been before. And we are able to have 80% of code written by super intelligent agents right now. This fundamentally changes how you think about building companies. It changes how you think about the cost of building companies. And so everything that really has been foundational rules is changing. And so I think that decay rate on operating experience is very real. And I think that 18 to 25-year-olds can build amazing companies and should be unleashed.
Okay. Thank you.
But it's a fair question. And it doesn't mean that there's not value in serial entrepreneurs. I think especially when it comes to management, there is human skills that sometimes younger founders lack, but absolutely unwaveringly bullish on 18 to 25-year-olds.
Right. Thank you.
Other questions? Let's take one in the back. You right there, blue shirt or a blazer. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Harry. Mo here. So I'm curious on your thoughts on the current landscape between angel funding and VC funding, and what your thoughts are on that.
I don't really see it, to be honest. I see everyone's. I always love this idea of friends and family. I wish my friends and family were so loaded that they give me $500,000. Sadly, not. My voice, people think I have a family office. I don't. Sadly, I think there's no difference between angel funding and venture rounds now. If you are really good and come out of a big company, you bluntly raise a 5 on 25 straight away. Sadly. And if you're really good but don't come out, you probably raise a 2 on 12, 3 on 15 pretty quickly. And so I think you see this blending of angel round and first institutional financing with venture really clearly, unless you're in a core hub, say you're in a Bristol or you're in a wherever, and then you might have that angel round. But for core hubs, I just see it become one.
Thank you.
Cool. One more, right over there.
Quick question. Is there any personal experience that would make you prioritize a founder if they've been through it?
I mean, I will back serial entrepreneurs. I like serial entrepreneurs. Project Europe is one of our strands. We have multiple different products as well. We have 20 sales, which is a sales-focused fund. We have 20 product-focused fund, 20 growth-focused fund. So I do back serial entrepreneurs. I think when you're entering heavily regulated industries, it is more helpful, one. And then two, I think when you're doing anything in hardware and manufacturing, good luck if you're doing it for the first time. You really want to have seen that one before. If you are reinventing chips and you are building in Shenzhen, naivety ain't a good thing. That's not a good thing. And so then I really will. Hardware in particular, the years of experience is very, very helpful, specifically.
Okay, we'll do one more over
We
there.
can just ping them. Let's do it.
Are there any industries or geographies you won't touch, and if so, why?
Yeah, emerging markets. Very easy. It's really, for anyone who knows my investing, we had a little foray into an emerging market, didn't go so well.
What do you define as an emerging market?
Well, in this case, it was Pakistan. I would say a non-core market. So will we invest in Poland 100% or Romania or any European country? Sure. Would I invest in India? No. Would I invest in, as I said, Pakistan? No. Africa? No. Honestly, Latin America? No. Everyone's like LATAM, a new bank. Give me another company other than new bank. Mercado Libre? Yeah, sure. All zero? You're going to pin your cap on all zero? I mean, what was that sell for? 3? Does not make a market. It's not really a market. So I'm not going to go there. When we've got Europe and we've got the US, it's hard enough to build a business. Going and making currency risk, political risk, you're just making it harder for yourself. Also, I really don't think that I'm very smart in terms of being able to understand local geographies. like local universities, there's so many different nuances. I'm not saying they're bad markets, but there's great people on the ground who understand them way better. And like Miami way better than someone who's just coming in fresh, and the people who are connectors, who are slimy, who are not slimy. I just have no idea about that. And so I really do put a premium on knowing markets really well at the ground level.
It's 6:52. I want to be mindful of your time.
Oh,
If
we
you
can
want
keep
to take
going.
more,
Yeah.
okay.
What is your wildest investment that you have ever made?
What's the wildest investment? Oh my God. I did a robot ice cream company. That was an interesting one. Yeah, that didn't work. Surprise. We did like an entirely new VR world, which actually is going rather well. It kind of takes over where Oculus kind of ended. I would say those two would be my most out there ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think the main reason for 9 out of 10 startups fail?
It's not like everyone's like, oh, startups die of indigestion, not starvation. It's bullshit. Anyone who knows company building, it's because they run out of cash. Why? Because they build things that people don't want. It's very simple. If you build something that people want, you will have a business.
Is it not just because you accept warm intros?
You sorry?
You just accept from warm introductions. Is it not one of the reasons?
Me?
No, I mean VCs.
No, I think people just suck at writing cold emails.
By the way, I got Harry to speak through a cold email. We didn't know each other.
No, we didn't.
I emailed him a month ago.
Yeah. No, I think people just really suck, and it's like, how do you write a very concise, short email that captivates the reader? I was an 18-year-old. I didn't know one VC. I didn't have a single dollar, and I didn't have a microphone. And I was convincing multi-millionaire, billionaire VCs with a cold email that I got on the For You page or the About Us page on their venture fund. But learning to write a really great, concise email, I think it's really important. But I think companies die because they build things that people don't want.
Thank you.
Hey, Harry, is there an area where you think that not many founders go, but there's actually a lot of upside and a lot of people you see in that area win? Like any particular vertical?
Yes, it's a good question. I think two areas today where I'm not seeing enough people and I wish more people were working is energy and is longevity. And I think twofold, like energy consumption is going to be the most challenging battle that we have over the next 10 years, or one of the most challenging battles. Fundamentally, yes, we will see Moore's law make AI more energy efficient, but you will also see Jevons paradox mean as it becomes more efficient and cheaper, more people will use it and it will be used for everything. And so the demand on energy supply will be enormous. I do not see enough people innovating, building in energy. Well done, Alan. Brilliant. That was an expensive first round, wasn't it? I mean, come on. It was a wild one. And so, but love Alan, amazing man. So I'd say energy, and then I'd say longevity. I'd say this, my mother's got MS. I think this is going to be a generation where we will solve MS. I think we will cure cancer. I think we will have people living to 150 years old. I still don't see enough people working in longevity, whether that's actually in lab work, whether that's actually in consumer products and testing. I don't think we see enough people there. I see too many people in customer support. Yeah.
Hey, Aaron, a question for you. Have you got a story of a portfolio company you invested in where it's all looked like it's completely going to shit, so they completely turned it around?
Oh my God, yeah. This is what's so fun. This is why we don't do reserve investing. Reserve investing, for people that don't know, is you generally put one check in and then you support with another check, or you double down with another check. And generally there's 12 months in between. And we don't do reserves. And most LPs are like, oh my gosh, how could you do this? And it's because we don't think that we're actually very good pickers on that second investment. And the reason being, the fastest out of the gate does not often win the marathon. And so I was an investor in Be Real. I was an investor in Hopin. I was an investor in some of the best at Clubhouse, fastest growing companies of our last few years, which ended up going to zero. No discredit to the founder, it happens. But if you had reserves, you would have put all of your money in them. And then there are many other investments where, honestly, they were slow, slow. And I actually really like businesses like this. I call it the distance to the start line, which is how far do you have to run before you even hit the start line. Because that run before the start line is what someone else is going to have to do to start. That's great. Why is SpaceX such a great business? Because the road to the start line is like 10 years of building rockets in Nevada. Like, I'll take that all day long, and I will invest all of my money into SpaceX at $300 billion over thinking that I'm going to find the next SpaceX. Also, big lesson, the next SpaceX, the next Palantir. Lesson, just invest in that next. Like, do the company that you think they're copying. Don't try and do the next one. And so I would say many, and I call it the messy middle. And like, don't discount the messy middle. Often that's where like all of the gold is. Yeah.
Is there, if you can speak about it, any deals or any products that you have in your recent investments that you're really, yeah, I love this. They're going to do well. Like, I'm really keen.
Yeah, I'd say two. Is like, one is this company called Fixer. It does email auto completion for largely real estate agents. You know, like email auto completion for real estate agents. Yeah, like, you know what? Honestly, how do AI applications build defensibility? They deeply verticalize. They're very, very focused on a specific industry. They have real data ownership and like access, which means that they have a better product because they're able to work on data sets that other people don't have. And they're able to product market, message, acquire customers through channels that Google's never going to acquire real estate agents through real estate agent channels, and they're never going to build products for real estate agent listings in an email. What the fuck? Can you imagine going to your email and being like, oh, do you want real-time Zillow listings? No. And so like deep verticalization, this company scaled from like 1 to 8 million in revenue in like 2 months. Enterprise contracts, beautiful. A similar one is a company called Solve. It's essentially AI for patent lawyers. Right, patent business is massive. I learned this. Wonderful thing about venture, you learn so much about stuff you never knew. Patent business is massive. Most of it actually is incredibly tedious, editing docs that kind of are similar. It essentially goes from patent creation, collaboration, submission with AI much more efficiently. And it's just, we did that one with Microsoft. We led the round and Microsoft did it. Interesting lesson there. Like, it to me felt like a high price. Use price as a litmus test for your conviction. If you do something at 80, which is what, you know, you do, but you wouldn't do it at 90, don't do the deal. You've got to do it, you probably even do it at 100. 150 is another thing, but use price as a litmus test for conviction. Really important one.
All right, I think we're going to wrap up there. Thank you so much, Harry. All right, we're going to call up Justice. He's going to say some closing remarks, and then we'll have time.
Thank you, dude. That was amazing. Awesome, cool. So before we wrap it up, go get some food upstairs, some more bevies, as you guys call it. I want to bring up a partner, sponsor, and a friend, David Parker with Culture Shift Labs. Give it up for David.
Good evening, everyone. Did you all enjoy that chat just now? So what was that? We're kind of Tweedledum and Tweedledee. So I'm out of Naples, Florida is where I'm based. We're trying to hype up the crowd a little bit because you're going to go out for some drinks. Did you just enjoy the chat you heard just now? Oh, that's much better. We've got some cheerleaders here, right? Use them for Tampa Bay. Culture Shift Labs, I'm the co-CEO, David Parker. We are a management consultancy firm that focuses on getting access to capital across 3 vectors: LPs, GPs, VCs, and entrepreneurs. We run our own events across 4 markets: Silicon Valley, New York, Miami, and more recently now in London. We've been running since 2006. And over the last 9 years that we've been in business, both as a consultancy and running events, we've enabled at least $1.8 billion of capital to flow from fund allocators down into entrepreneurial communities. And we're on track to do another $1 billion between now and the end of 2026. So we work with every single one of you here, whatever company you represent, whether you're representing yourself as a founder, you're a VC, investor, whatever it may be, family offices, we represent those alongside our partners. And we also represent celebrities, high net worth individuals. So as an example, we were at the NBA All-Star Weekend back in February, hosting an event for a major client of ours, where we actually produced their fundraising and launch of one of their new products. So together, we've worked on many events together over the past 3 years, and we'll be here doing more events. Is that right?
Oh, easy.
It's the first one for these guys, but this will be our 4th year that we're here running events, which will probably take place in October. So I want to extend a warm heart thank you for those of you based in the UK and London. We know what it's like to get out after work. Many of you don't even come into the city on a Monday anymore. Is that right? Yeah, we're working from home, right? We don't have that luxury. But in saying that, we appreciate you taking the time to come out. We hope you all gained some very important information from what you just heard. You can reach out to either myself, Justice, or Pablo if you require information. And once again, thank you all for coming.
Amazing. So I know everybody wants some food and some drinks, so I'll keep it 30 seconds or less. But one thing I want to say is that alone we're weak, together we're strong. That's why we host these events. And I like to close every event with the same quote. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So let's go up there, let's drink, let's eat, let's have some fun, and let's meet each other and do some deals. All right. That's the part where you clap. All right, let's go.